Where's that million? How do you label that million?
We haven't brought our work session to order yet, have we?
He did.
Oh,
In the absence of the mayor, I'd like to go ahead and call the work session for the budget to order. Roll call, please.
Aiken.
Here.
Fair.
Here.
Ernest.
Here.
Scarborough.
Here.
Henry. Tobias.
Please let the record show the mayor is currently speaking to someone off camera. He will join us shortly.
There's a couple different ways to do it. Basically,
Just to rehash for the camera. So, Brian, the question is, approximately $1.6 million was awarded tonight for a contract for the streetscape project, of which we know that the town's ultimate responsibility of that is $1,072,000, meaning VDOT will reimburse us the delta of about $590,000. What is the proper way to reflect the $1 million some odd dollars that we will need, the $1,072,000 that we need to bring in? It's not carryover from this fiscal year, it's cash on hand, so how do you reflect that? How would you suggest?
well, what I would say is I think what you want to do is you want to keep both those funds separate. You want to probably create two separate funding mechanisms.
Absolutely.
From the standpoint of
Well, we've got an iced tea safety loop reimbursement.
yeah.
line.
And then I would add the other one where potential additional funds are going to be coming in.
What was that word? I'm sorry, I heard it.
The additional funds
Right.
from the account funds. Keep those separately for bookkeeping efforts because you're getting audited by the VDOT for enhancement grant anyway. So what I would say is I think what you want to do is you want to bring in what we're going to pay. You know, as you can just keep that kind of a rolling fund throughout the fiscal year. I'd really want to double check because I haven't gotten a chance to really look into it. But what I would say is like what I've seen done in other jurisdictions is basically a lot of times, especially in smaller jurisdictions, you don't have that whole thing. So you're kind of working money as it's coming in. As you do drawdowns, you're putting it back into the same fund to cover the expenses as they come in. That's what I've seen in other jurisdictions.
Thank you.
I don't know if that necessarily helps, but I'm kind of still catching up to speed.
It didn't help, but it bought me some time to think about what I really want to do.
Okay. Do you need to buy you some more time?
All right, so essentially, would you record reflect that the mayor will join and take over? You allow me the...
Go ahead.
So, last time we were doing this, we pretty much got all the way through all the revenue line items. There's been there should have been, I think Jen was working on it today, an adjustment on the estimated revenue. We have a decision to make tonight on the budget on the estimated revenue for development revenue. To adjust that number.
I did not.
Okay. Got an email from Marchant based on his opinion of the professional developmental revenue fees that will be coming in for the different projects within town. And just to go over those, he emailed those to me today, which I will forward to the server and forward over to you guys later once we're up and running. These fees are the base fee amounts. Any waivers or exceptions may involve additional fees. There are also other pass-through fees by the town attorney and engineer that they may assess separately, so these numbers are conservative estimates. And two of these items on the list are tentative, not confident that they will happen. The first item that he's confident is the Sheets Rebuild Site Plan Special Use Permit, bringing in some funds of approximately $4,300. Funeral Home Site Plan / Special Use Permit, which may happen at $4,300. Self-storage site plan, special use permit, $4,300. Iceplex expansion of the final site plan, $2,500. Rose Building final site plan, $2,500. Restaurant site plan amendment for Corals, a special use of $850. Those two items total six items total $18,700 on the conservative side. He has two items that he's not sure about. One is a comp plan amendment / zoning text amendment / rezoning for the fairgrounds property, which he estimates conservatively, which would bring in somewhere in the neighborhood of $35,000 in revenue. And then the McDonald's site plan / special use permit, which would be another $4,300. If you add them all up, it's $58,000. If you take the last two off that he's not sure about, which I'm only not sure about number 7, which is the fairgrounds. I'm pretty sure McDonald's is, I mean, they're already in front of the ARB and discussing that. Anyway, you're either 23,000 or 58,000 on conservative numbers for developmental revenue. Now, keep in mind that a lot of that is turned around and washed right back out by the expenses attributed to that. But we need to plug in that $23,000 to $58,000 number. So that will increase the revenue line.
Which line
The new budget, it would be on the first page. It's actually a mix between. It's going to be a mix between application fees and then other planning and permits. Right, John?
Yeah, or we could put it all under other things and permits.
But the part of that's an application. I mean, all 7 or 8 of those will have an application associated with it. So the breakdown between those 2 categories, which Jen and I can work on, Marshawn, on what those real numbers might be for applications, et cetera. I mean, does anybody have any other information about the fairgrounds, and do we believe that may or may not happen this year? I mean, I haven't talked to Guy Gravitt recently about that property. He's got a lot of ideas, but I don't think any of them are in developmental stages at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've been hearing about different things for that parcel of land forever. It would be fantastic if it did come through, but I don't think we should bank on it in any way, shape, or form.
So, when he was saying that those were conservative numbers, do you want to err on the side of conservative caution and just say 23,000?
Yes.
So if you add 23,000 to the 1964 budget, you get 1,987,775. And we'll
Unless we
figure
just
out,
add it to the total.
we'll figure out where to add that in the expense side later.
But didn't you say most of it's just going to balance out with expenditures?
Yeah, but you
elsewhere,
still
so
got- yeah.
It's not really a plus up in any means.
So,
It'll probably mostly cover inspection fees and then
Yeah.
so if we move on to the expenditure accounts, unless anybody had any other questions or any other eye-popping information on the revenue numbers that have changed over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Jen, did you adjust the salary and wages for Marchand's, or do we need to do that here too? I know that we were talking about doing it, but then we had to rebuild this because of the service, so we need to fix that.
We do, and
Okay.
actually I haven't even changed it from the 15 to the 20, so.
So,
Go to page 8 of mine, you strike through 15,000, first line.
yeah, so, 8 of 9, first line.
Other contractors, services.
That's not my first line. What's the line number? Project number.
4,300.
Ninth line.
Yeah, so that is going to actually be added to salaries, town administration. Actually, it'd be part-time Holly, Denise, Marshall.
Correct.
And then we have to figure in, his estimate this year was 25,000, 24,000?
20.
20,000 plus any other things to that, to add to that? Maybe that's not nothing there, right? He's not covered under any of our plans. So 52.3 becomes 72.3. So. Town council and such, those numbers are somewhat standard. We did add some previous work session, we added some stuff for meals and lodging and convention and stuff. Salaries and wages for the town administration, that's already in there. Those are updated.
Correct.
But no
Oh,
increases.
I'm sorry, I did not change on town administration to reflect the town manager's actual salary. I did not make that change.
That would actually make it go down.
That's correct.
Right. What was the delta on that? 72 versus 61? And he was at 72? Okay, do you have that to find out right now? So that's gonna, $12,000 roughly.
What about increases?
We haven't got we need to go through all the absolute necessity stuff first to find out where our carryover is, if our carryover exists, before we go that avenue, in my opinion. While she's figuring that one out, all that stuff is about the same, counting auditing services. Although I have a question about the auditing services, because our actuals are quite a bit more than our budget. I have to ask staff where they came up with that number. Town plan. While we're waiting, Steve, do you have any changes for the police department from what's already on there?
Yes. We were informed that we may be doing capital equipment incorrectly, that apparently capital equipment is supposed to be anything that has a lifespan of greater than a year. And we put some things we put in different categories that might have to go to capital now, and I just wanted to make sure whether or not we're going to, and
Can you explain that everything we spend is a capital outlay, not necessarily a capital improvement? So it's the same line item, it's just titled differently.
so what we did so far is okay.
Yeah, and I think Jen already put in, like,
Just so you know, you can change the salary and wages current number to 159,240. So that's a total of 10,500.
can you repeat that number, please?
159,240.
Thank you. Anything that hasn't been added in because you haven't asked for it yet is you wanted to add the money in furniture and fixtures. Jen's already changed that from 10 to 12.
Oh, okay, hold on. Oh, but that's not going to be the 26.
Yeah, because that's the capital improvements and that'll get plugged in.
431.31, civil
Okay,
tax
okay,
admin.
okay.
Is that because they bill in arrears?
What
They're paying
about,
us so far in arrears, is that why the actuals right up 37, 75? And then,
Oh, no, it's on the top of
Minus
this one.
331.
yeah, and then the other question I had was
Okay, that's
health
still
insurance is
27.
going up
Yeah,
big
because that
time,
covers the
from
kids on
15,000.
track. And then this was 10, and we added 2 to it.
15,000
I know we
34,000.
technically need it. So,
We budgeted 40,000.
Yeah, but actuals throughout the course of the year is only been 15,510. 11,
Yeah, I think that was,
so we need to double check that one. Because we should pretty soon have an actual number there.
Now I can, now it's higher.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So we can get a real number for the next work, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Now that Rebecca has straightened me out.
Hang on
She's
one
good at
second,
that.
Steve, now that Jen's back, hang on one second. Accounting and auditing, Jen, 431.20. We budgeted 21, we spent 13.9, you're only budgeting 75.
That is not the audit itself, that is.
That was
the
the
service.
treasurer. That number for accounting and auditing services, folks,
They should be moved in before.
You just brought your auditing.
What line number? What number is it?
431.20. The accounting and auditing services number was actually the number for James, which is something the council's already discussed that we need to look into replacing. So that number's probably going to shoot back up. I would probably say that we should probably put that back to 20,000.
Yeah.
So let's minus 12. Don't bother, don't bother. Yes, because you're going to lose it when the server crashes. I won't lose ink. And then there's nothing else on the first page that ends in 4006012 on my sheet that I see needs to be changed on the expense category at this point in time. Does anybody else have
Thank
it?
you.
Okay.
Update on the server while you are on the closed session.
That's not on the first page.
It's not? Internet and website?
The server's not a website. That's the equipment.
We have two.
Sorry.
I don't see internet and website. Yeah, I think you already, remember you were saying earlier, page
We
8?
don't have internet.
Somehow you got a different
We don't
page.
have internet on this one.
And quite honestly, that would probably be capital outlay machinery.
It's not, and that's the good news. There's some decisions to be made. So.
Well, there's also the potential that we can fix it. I mean, it's going to need to be fixed now anyway, so we don't need to put it in this budget. It's going to be fixed between now and July
This
1st.
might be our grant maintenance.
So it's not-
Yeah, there's just a communication yet. It could be a monthly expense if we wanted it to be.
Well, let's talk about that after we figure out what the guy says tomorrow when he gets here. Otherwise, we're hypothesizing.
I've already talked to him. His
Well,
opinion is.
I'm going by the town manager's discretion that the guy's coming out tomorrow.
Is he still coming
That
along?
has been canceled.
Okay.
It's dead.
Okay.
Well, then let's.
We're working in safe mode, which restricts certain things.
So let's just go. Let's
Keep on the
Why don't
budget.
town manager and staff handle that tomorrow? Because this is for next year's budget.
Exactly.
And whatever we fix, we have to fix now.
Yeah.
Not in July 1st.
Yeah.
And if there is a contract for maintenance that needs to be added to this, we can add it at the next council meeting.
That's fine.
Based on
The
staff recommendation
Yeah.
after they've evaluated the process, not.
The unknown issue was if we could limp it along, we wanted to put it in this budget. I think that was the only thing we were wondering, but I think we're going to have to replace it beforehand, so we'll just replace it with the existing budget.
I suggest the council would probably appreciate an update tomorrow, the next day, once you have final numbers and final recommendations from the IT and the staff.
Yes.
Moving on to page 4?
Town administration, education, and recreation. As we have already been talking about previously, there is an issue with, to put it delicately, there's an issue with the background and capacity of the knowledge of our staff in the certain programs that they have. There's some opportunities that have been brought to our attention to further the staff's training in those areas. That being said, some of those expenses may arise this fiscal year, and council can make a decision rather quickly about that. Some of those education opportunities may arise the following year. That being said, I'd like to put, I don't really like the recreational side of this budget line item, but on the educational side, I'd like to put a number of 5,000 in there for assistance in training and continued upkeep of our staff's knowledge as programs change, et cetera.
don't know why this line item is there, but if you go up a few line items, it's convention and education, under 3,000. I would suggest eliminating one of those. I know you don't like them.
For the convention and education, I was thinking was more along the lines of your clerk's trips.
Okay, gotcha.
So I was going to delete, I would go with educational and training, not educational and recreation, because I'm not going to pay you to have a picnic. But I would definitely pay for you to go to school and get educated on certain things that staff may see fit at our local community colleges.
And then I would suggest you keep convention and education, or you could just slide down to convention.
Well, that's what I just told Jen, is just keep that because that's all about the,
That's
that's the continuing,
conferences or anything.
that's exactly what I said.
I'm sorry. I'm just ripping.
Yes, you are. Legal services, that number's 80,000 based on, and that should hopefully be a bit excessive, not a lot. The next accounting and auditing services, the actual audit, that number's held pretty true. And now, without any further ado, Steve.
Only one change.
Two.
I'm sorry.
We forgot about adding that 250 in for those couple classes that they
Oh,
charged
right.
for.
Page 5 of 9, fourth one down.
Can you give us an object number, because our pages
Oh,
may not be the same.
4006013, educational and recreational.
Can we
Yeah, we're
change
changing that to
recreational to training?
training.
Absolutely can. Asking for $250 there. Most courses are paid when they go to Prince William County and that, but every once in a while they go to a special course, whether it's, what was it, CPR
CPR.
recently, that they had to pay.
You mean when they go to Rappahannock or go to Prince William County?
Rappahannock
You said Prince William, but you meant Rappahannock. Criminal Justice.
for the police academy.
Oh, I thought it was Prince William County Police Academy. Never mind. But yes, when we go to the police academy, normally it's paid for, but every once in a while, there's a little thing somewhere that we have to pay for, in this case CPR, and so we just want to budget for that next year, just in case.
With all due respect, I think that number is probably low, and I at least round it up to, 1,000 or 2,000, just in case.
CPR course by Red Cross standards, CPR AED is a mandated $50 per person.
But we ain't got the 5.
I know.
And they only got
However,
charged
that does not include any first aid training or anything else.
Well,
So
Jay-
I agree with you that 250 is a low number.
Yeah, Jay's, just looking at CPR, it's a correct number, but Jay's right, who knows what will come next year.
Yeah, I'd hate to have to be,
And
so
have something else.
so
slap something.
6013, I'd move choose to 2,000 then, if everybody else is okay with that.
And then down,
My 5,000, there you go.
at least on mine, 4 more, 4008102, capital outlay, furniture and fixtures. I'd like to add 6,000 to that for, there'll be some new furniture necessary, lockers, stuff like that for the new building that isn't needed immediately, but, for example, when you walk into the place, you want to have a nice entryway and area that the secretary's in. We're going to have equipment on the wall there with the network equipment and such that we want to sort of box it off with a cabinet or something to hide it against the wall there. So there's just miscellaneous things. Not everyone needs new furniture. Not everyone needs new desks and chairs and all that. We're going to make do with what we have. But gradually, we're going to need to fix some things up and add some things over the year.
6,000?
6,000.
Is that it?
That's all I had for the police department area.
Jen, on fire and rescue, the $8,000, do we have profit money that's coming in that obligates us to do that?
No, it's a localities, it's a fire funds grant that we are obligated to pass on.
Are we obligated to apply for it if it's a fire funds grant?
No, we do not have to apply. it sits unused if we don't apply. That's much per locality.
Right.
But no, we don't have to ask for money.
But I would imagine it gives us goodwill to give people money that we don't have to pay
Kidding?
for
You remember when you
ourselves.
just tried to give the schools the money? Remember how much trouble we got into? There was a whole newspaper article on us.
More than one, wasn't there?
Other contractual services, building official, that number hopefully will, they're doing a lot more work than our previous building official did, and unfortunately, there's probably a lot of work that they still need to do, so that number is probably somewhat realistic. Hopefully it comes in less than that, but who knows?
Do we consider this catch-up?
And mustard. They're both.
So theoretically, next year or something, it might come down once we get into a stable.
If we get caught up, but honestly, at the level of the inspections that they're currently doing, and the amount of inspections they're doing, and the detail of the inspections they're doing, I don't know. It kind of depends on what happens next year and what issues.
Well,
There's been a lot of issues that have recently come to light since we've got a new building official. I'm sure that there are other skeletons in the closet that could come to
then
light.
should this be plussed up a little?
No. I think this
Okay.
is a good number for this year,
All right.
this coming year. But I interpreted your question as, do you see it carrying forward for the following year
Correct,
also?
that was my question.
I have no idea. We'll talk about that in March.
And Jen, that figure does cover our building official and ENS, or,
Yes, right now in this budget, it
Okay.
does.
Are there actuals for this one? Or do we know?
No, I don't have them.
Okay.
One of the things, just should have said this earlier, this format that we're using right now, Jen and I are going to continue to tweak and make sure things are divvied up, just like what you said, the ENS and the building. She was working on it very diligently yesterday, and then I came in and asked her to change. No, everything was working fine until I showed up yesterday. And then I asked her to change what she was doing. And
Must be
when
your
she-
magnetic
When
personality.
she tried to change something yesterday, then the server blew up last night. I think she just didn't want to deal with it today. And then actually her job got twice as hard today because she had to do it all by hand, so.
It was the ERP.
Oh, yeah.
Refuse collection, moving along, according to Sherry, that number is good. And now we move on to maintenance of general buildings and grounds. This number, the first number, well, we'll just go line by line. You've got these all broken out except for, are we not going to, Jim, we divvied up all the other town center properties based on rental.
Yes.
One of the things you and I are going to still do is divvy up the Harrowville property.
Yes, and on that new,
Yeah.
I laid it out today.
Right. So basically repairs and maintenance services for non-rented property and non-town hall property, i.e. the Harrowville property, essentially, is the $5,000 number. Right, Jim? Am I
No,
reading?
that includes general grounds here too.
Okay, that number needs to be shot up. Because that number needs to be shot up. I don't know about that. As we're going through the stage of the quote town center redesign project, et cetera, there's going to be certain, I don't know that we're going to be able to fund it all this year, but there are going to be certain aspects of it that we're going to have to fix. There's still the issue of, are we properly waterproofed? There's still the issue of general repair to the building that we're going to start using that's sat vacant for 9-10 months. I think we could, the repairs and maintenance, I think we should chalk up to close to 20,000.
I was going to say add 20 and just make it 25, but 20 is
Okay.
good.
Okay. So 25. Quick, easy way. Pest control, we've got a real number for that. We'll plug it in. We just paid a quarterly check for what, $375 or something?
The only thing we're paying on right now is the termite control for
should have, because I asked Sherry to make sure that that house and that building behind us was. I asked Sherry to ask them to come back out based on their previous last visit, and to make sure that all of the town property is properly treated.
Okay, so get that number.
Yeah, we need to get that number, but I'm assuming $3,000 is probably plenty.
Okay.
So I would go to 3,000 on that,
Okay.
based on Sherry and mine's conversation. Landscaping, that's kind of a low, that's kind of a known number. The issues that we come into now
Jay?
is,
Did we skip over maintenance service contracts for 15K?
I didn't skip over because I wasn't going to say anything about changing anything.
But the question I have is, there's pest control in that, yet there's,
It'll be deleted. The word
Okay.
pest control / town hall, once this is done completely, we're going to divvy up. If the bill for all the town center properties, not town center, all the town properties is $3,000 a year, we're going to divvy it up amongst the museum's piece of pest control, the heritable property piece of pest control, the Whole Fish House, the post office, the postal office, the Whole Fish House, the police department. So
Thank you.
you can strike that word, pest control. Landscaping, some of these numbers are still rough because we're still in communications with the people that we're potentially bidding the job out for as a complete contract. And one of the things that staff is still doing is figuring out if what we have is cheaper than what we may get, or vice versa. So some of these numbers are a work in progress: snow removal, landscaping, etc. Street cleaning. Electrical service, pretty good number, based on year-to-date. Street light replacements and repairs, that's a pretty good number. Water, sewer, should be a good number. This is where you put in website and internet service. This is all of our tracking software, policies and all that. That's a known number. Property insurance is a known number. This is where Jen and I we were talking about it previously, but because she had to recreate it today, rental of equipment is a line item that we can strike. We don't own any equipment to rent. Rental of buildings, i.e. town hall, with the new policy, that's not going to cost us anything. Why is that in there?
That's a
Oh, that's for us to rent.
Yeah, that's a strike.
Yeah, that's a strike too. We're not going to rent any buildings.
Now, if we had to rent a power washer or something, if, say, something happens and our maintenance guys can't power wash something, would that fall under rental of equipment or just under general?
No, it would actually fall under our rental contract with the rental people.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, with our cleaning people, because the emails that I've seen say we have access to ABC.
Okay.
I'm not hiring somebody to come in and do it if I provide all the equipment.
Okay.
Correction. I don't believe the council should hire anybody to come in and do it. The council has to. Or Brian should hire anybody, that's kind of silly. Because then we're just hiring labor. We can go get that pretty cheap in Herman.
totally uncomfortable.
We can't go get labor in Herman?
Yeah, I think.
Janitorial supplies, that's pretty standard there.
So we buy supplies for the people who come in and clean, they don't bring their own?
No, that's like paper towels for the kitchen area,
Oh, okay.
shout 409 or whatever.
About repair, I think this is wrong.
What line number?
The
is
last
it?
one. Last one on page 567, 467.
I'm not sure what that would really come under, that we'd be repairing ourselves, that wouldn't be covered under a service contract and such.
Should we strike it now? That's my question.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, do we replace our own light bulbs, or is that part of somebody's service, or do we?
Thomas doesn't, and that would be part of, I don't know, Jen, how do y'all do with it?
Batteries in the calculator, that's all office supply, right?
Yeah, office, that'd be awesome. I would consider a light bulb an office
Yeah,
supply.
yeah, I would too.
I mean, I would
Get rid of
strike.
that? Yes.
And then since we're just under general buildings and grounds, we really don't have any vehicle-powered equipment, fuels, or supplies. So those two items can be struck. Capital outlay machinery and equipment. I don't foresee us buying any well, unless something changes with what you're saying in the server thing, but I think that'll be fixed by July 1st. So our copier is in good shape. We're buying a computer from Brian now. I can't foresee any general capital outlays for machinery and equipment, so just leave that as a zero. Don't strike it, but leave it as a zero.
We ended up taking it off the CIP, but the staff had requested one additional computer for in Marchant and Holly's office because they share one now, and sometimes they are in here at the same time. So, $1,500 for the computer and all the programs, and that's the figure they
$1,500?
had given me.
$1,000.
Well, that was the figure they had given me for the CIP back
We have
several
another
months ago.
figure. What's our budget look like for this year? I think that if council decides June 3rd to, if they want to still consider, if it's still staff and Brian's recommendation on June 3rd, I think that we could probably
Okay.
be in a good position this year to take care of that this year, in my opinion. And if that's something that Brian and staff can talk about tomorrow or the next day, perhaps there's a way for us to get a discount on what we've already ordered and what we're possibly changing with the IT folks anyway. But I don't have any objection to trying to get that done this year.
Okay.
Anybody else have any objection to trying to do it now versus later? Same thing for capital outlay for furniture and fixtures. I don't know of any upgrades that are on the CIP. I don't know of any changes that we're going to have to make here for general. Steve kind of covered in the PE. I haven't heard any requests since Jen got a brand new desk that she's wanted anything else. You happy? So that can stay zero. And then capital outlay major building repairs, that number needs to be shot up because of the whole town center property improvement project that may or may not come to realization. Does anybody have any idea what number that should be? Because something tells me it's going to be big.
What sort of things are we thinking about?
There has been discussion at the ARB of a new facade for the building.
Definitely needs that.
Well, I don't know if it needs a new facade or it needs to be tender loving cared. But there's been discussion of a new facade to answer your question. Hopefully nothing in the other two major properties. And hopefully we're doing enough fixing over here, power washing and stuff, there shouldn't be anything major there. But the new facade is for one thing that would be a major building repair. The rest of what I think we're planning for this property involves the grounds itself.
It kind of includes both. It's a master plan. They have the facade.
Right,
work out
but if
there
we were
and all that.
divvying it up amongst,
But unfortunately, we haven't gotten to the cost area on
Yeah.
this whole planning process yet, so I couldn't even
And it
give,
has not come to ARB yet.
because we haven't even gotten that far.
and actually, where would, Jen, since we're on general buildings and grounds in that category, where would a renovation project for the grounds categorize be here? I mean, would it be another capital outlay / major grounds repairs? Major property improvements?
I would say
I would say
Can we, I mean, we have the ability to add lib into this?
Absolutely.
So, for the sake of argument, do you want to put in,
A couple of zeros.
how close to realization Marchand would probably know this answer better than anybody else? Because he's the one that's kind of been working with it more than
They
anybody
do
else.
have a layout of the property and a facade design. We were waiting for the narrative from the company about what they do, about this. That was what we're waiting on.
I have another suggestion of where to put this. If you go down to the end of you'll see the capital projects, Washington Street enhancement, the roof enhancement.
Can you give us an object number, please?
Page number?
Oh, it's the last page.
The function is 300, that's the capital.
The fund is for it?
The fund, yes, it's not the fund. Starts with Washington Street on my.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Then you've got the caboose, and then you've got the pedestrian grant. I would suggest adding
Town center property?
Town Center Property Master Plan as a capital.
It actually, Town Center property is on the CIP, and estimated cost of about $500,000.
So let's set up a line item.
But we're suggesting bond
Or
grant
let's skip
funds. You know, but, you know, there are grant funds we can go out after and, but, yeah. That was on the draft copy everyone got to look at.
How close is that to any kind of fruition? 'Cause, I mean, and by the time you apply for grants, and then by the time you do this, and award a contract, and yada, 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 you know, you solicit it out for RFP. Because the company that we're doing with now is just gonna give us a general idea, right? They're gonna propose to us 5 or 6 ideas, how we should this.
And then we have to go into the design
Then you
phase
have
of
to go
it.
into
So
design, then you have to go into that. So really,
Marchant and Holly have to give the breakdown of the cost.
so really for the town center improvement project for this year, we could still be in the planning phase, not the actual execution phase.
That's very possible.
Absolutely.
So $50,000 to plan it?
I have no idea. Again, Marchant and Holly would have to explain
I'm
out
not
the
asking
design
you for
phase.
an actual number. Are you comfortable with throwing $50,000 in the budget?
Well, I would say
As a
yes,
placeholder.
because you got a $500,000 placeholder for the whole thing. 10%
Yeah.
for planning makes sense.
So then, is it okay if Jen then adds that town center enhancement project? And then architectural and engineering fees, $50,000?
And then taking the 5,000 out of the major building repairs or leaving that there?
No, I still think that number needs to go up. I think that there can still be other major improvements and repair. You know,
Right, you never know.
well, one of the things that you gotta remember is that the building behind us, while we're spending money on it right now, we're spending money on it to kind of get it operational.
Right.
Once it becomes operational, heaven forbid something happens, we have to repair it, because we're not gonna move our police department back out of there immediately after we just moved it there.
Oh, exactly.
So I would at least double that number.
Oh, I was thinking of adding a 2 again.
Where are we?
We're back on the,
We're at
we're still
Page 6 of
under
9.
4008109. If everybody could use object
of
numbers, it's probably easier for everybody, because they're in mathematical order somewhere. 4008109. I would say easily that could become 10 or 15.
15.
Let's just call it 15, make that dollar sign a 1. Were we 15? Yeah.
Town hall property, these numbers are fairly accurate for the expenses for town hall, rental, et cetera, et cetera. These are staff estimates based on what they've seen historically. Same thing with the next category.
Can you add the 4,599 real property taxes for
Yes.
the old post office? Put 1,000 in there. I'm not sure how much it'll be.
Old post, because that's, oh, you're way down.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, oops.
I haven't gotten it yet. I was on Town Hall Suite
Same line.
200.
Sorry.
Same line number, different section.
Town Hall
Yeah.
Suite 204 is still a good number.
I was
based on
having that to
Jen's.
Suite 110.
Real property taxes at what, Jen?
I would say 1,000, and it's kind of a guess, but nothing's come more than that.
So, since we're now going to be renting this property potentially, it looks like pretty good. And shucks, I meant to talk to you guys about that during the open meeting.
Oh, oops.
Well, we can still talk, because it's technically,
Oh, we can't.
no, it still comes in with the budget work session. Yeah, it does. So, just to hash, just let me go.
Okay.
So, just to hash where we're at on the town hall, the old post office rental and potential costs there. David,
Income?
no, we gotta adjust that too. This, yes, so yes.
Right.
We had originally proposed at 1,500, basically, the current negotiation is our normal square footage at times 3 years at 1,500 square foot times whatever our normal rate is. David had mentioned, and met with the folks who wanted to rent it, they had mentioned some things they'd like to see done to it that either we could do before they moved in or after they moved in. That's kind of how it was presented to them. Rebecca and I, as the project coordinators for the work that's being done, immediately took a pause to that and said, wait a minute, if we do all this, it's going to cost us potentially a lot more because of the fact that it would be a change order to the existing contract. and we automatically get billed a 20% premium for any change orders. So Rebecca and I met with prospective tenants to talk about what improvements they'd like to see. And they actually wound up saving us a little bit of money on one of the things. We were going to install a certain set of lights, and assuming they were to get the, sign a lease, they want a different type of lights. So we were able to save money there because we don't have to buy lights. So the long and the short of it is, it kind of made sense to say, okay, you guys are in the real estate business, you obviously have contractors. What are you thinking money-wise? Can you guys get bids? Would you guys like to do the work yourself if we signed off on it, et cetera? So one of the things we have to consider for next year's budget is, like David said, the rental income for that building. The rental income for that building, if done at our normal rate, would be $39,000 for the course of the year. We're assuming we should be able to get this deal signed and dated by July 1, and that could actually start. That being said, they've identified approximately $15,000 worth of work that needs to be done. That's their numbers based on a couple of estimates that they've gotten provided to Rebecca and I. Rebecca and I have went to the contractor and said, okay, what can you do this for with the change order stuff? A couple things he's more expensive, a couple things he's less expensive. That being said, one of the things that we have to consider at the next meeting in June, but we ought to talk about it a little bit right now, is does it make sense if they sign a lease that is more favorable, i.e. a longer term, like we discussed previously? Is council okay with potentially giving certain rent abatements back to them to allow them to do the work and not have us have it as a capital outlay? My logic behind saying yes to that is I'd rather, we've not generated any income from this building for umpteen years. I'm okay with foregoing income for 3 months or 2 months or 4 months, depending on how the math works and how the negotiations go, in lieu of spending the money out of our pocket to fix it. It doesn't, to me, it's a wash whether or not, if we spent $15,000 but then collected $15,000 in rental income, it's a wash. And then we're in charge of the project again, and we're in charge of getting it done, and we've got a budget for it, et cetera. Versus if we say, okay, the rent would be $39,000, but we're going to give them a $12,000 allowance, so we just change the rent to $27,000, and say, okay, this is the allowance we're willing to give you. Now, after we discuss this tonight, David will have some more information to go back. David and I still need to talk with Rebecca because we've got different numbers from the contract. I told you I'd get those numbers to you. We got to get some numbers that we can have David go back to the tenants with and say, where can we meet in the middle here? So I guess the long and short of it is, a placeholder number would be $39,000, but it would actually probably not quite be that amount. But we'll hopefully, at the next meeting on June 3rd, have a better idea of what that number is. Or would council like to fix it ourselves, in which case we have to budget for an expense for next year? Sorry, that was an extremely long-winded answer to how do y'all want to handle it.
I don't have a problem with the rent abatement because it's cleaner, but I prefer to see the work done and approved by us before any rent abatement or something along those lines, so that they don't get rent abatement and then somehow decide not to do it all or something.
Yeah,
along those lines.
I agree with you 100%. Kind of cover,
Yeah,
our,
we need to
what's
cover
next. And I
ourselves.
think that any lease that is drafted by Martin and his firm and any negotiations as such would say rent commences X, rent. If rent, I don't know what the legal wording is.
As long as that's covered.
Yeah,
that's
but
it.
I think we could cover that.
They'll take care of it.
Cover that in
Rent's due July 1st, but if you're making repairs, as long as X repairs are done by July 31st, you don't owe us for that month.
Something along those
Yes,
lines.
I concur 100%. So rent abatement's okay with you,
Yeah.
as far as David discussing and then us fixing the budget number next year, next month.
Oh, yeah,
I know where you are.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think I know where you are.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do I know where you are? You're okay with that? Are you okay with that? All right, so you and I can tag team tomorrow maybe, and I can give you the idea of the numbers of what Rebecca and I are thinking, as far as what we'd like to try to offer. Okay. So major building repairs, 15,000, and down to Old Post Office, adding 1,000 to real property, which on our sheet, I think takes us to page 7 and 9. Jen, I'm not sure where you're at.
Before we
Question?
Oh, shucks.
Since we are going to be leasing out the old post office, do we want to plug numbers in for repairs and maintenance and
Yes.
the other stuff? Because they're blank right now.
Yes, I would probably go the same $1,000.
We can get shutters. We can have like 1,500 to get shutters on it.
Rebecca and mine's opinion on that was the whole fish house does not have one.
That's all we do. We didn't make the cut at the end.
Has the old post office ever had shutters on it? I can't
I don't
remember
recall
them
it ever
having
having
them on
shutters,
it.
and Pam
Ever.
operated it as the Red Rooster.
19 years.
I think it did.
I think it did too.
They did.
Okay.
Maybe 1,500 is what the estimates, I think.
Well, it's funny because they didn't even mention that as something they wanted.
They just wanted the front door to be red,
And
since it's the Red
Right.
Rooster.
Right.
I think that it would probably, it makes more sense just to match the other historic white building in the town. Does the museum have shutters?
Yes. And the
Green ones.
red house.
We don't own the Red House.
I understand, but it's one of the older homes.
We don't, it's not a home, it's a business, but we don't own, doesn't have it. We don't own the Red House. I personally could care less about shutters.
I think
And
it looked
if-
nicer with shutters.
The problem
I
is,
think it looked
Well,
nicer,
we
yeah.
do also have some weird window shapes where we have that one little window upstairs right next to the
you're
other
talking
one,
about
so.
custom created shutters at this point.
Well, you would-
I could see maybe putting, I'd really have to go out and look at the building, but with some of the window shapes, we'd have to leave them off one window, have them to where it's either,
It's just the one bathroom window. That should have been taken out anyway. That should have never been there. Should have closed that out, just like we did over in the whole fish on some of the windows. Indoors, we just sealed it all up.
Well, we can, let's see where the budget hashes out right now, because that would be a wish, not a need.
All right,
My
so we're
opinion.
putting repairs and maintenance 1,000. What are we putting for electric?
Electric would be paid for by the tenant.
that would be,
So that
So
would be zero.
electric should be zero, assuming that it's fully rented.
Water and sewer we're doing.
Water and sewer will be broken up depending upon,
So we want to put in 350?
that's the standard number we had in for the others.
Right. Tax will be put in 1,000. Repair and maintenance supplies.
We had,
Duplicate the 500?
just duplicate.
Okay.
Property insurance, Jen, is at a legitimate 146? So then we're changing by 2850.
I assume everything would be at least a year warranty. What we're getting there, so there really wouldn't be any repairs.
Well,
Everything's brand new.
you know,
not
well,
everything will be brand new, David. We didn't build the house from scratch. So only the repairs, only the new stuff that's getting put on would have warranties and workmanship and craftsmanship things, but
lightning hits a window, shatters it, we
Yeah,
have to
I mean-
replace it.
Earthquake or
You know, tree limb
they
comes in
didn't,
from.
they didn't hang the door. The current contractors didn't hang the door, and we have no idea which of the previous 2,700 contractors hung the door, so, yes.
put
Yeah,
something
so,
in there
yeah.
for the just in case, yeah.
So whatever we put it,
500.
1,000, 0, 350, 486, 1,500. On Washington Street, 15,026.
Well, onto the income of that property, are we changing the 32 to 39?
No. 39 would be no rent.
Without, without the abatement, so,
We should probably, that number doesn't matter tonight, and I'll tell you why, because David needs to go back to them and hopefully come up with some almost finite terms by June 3rd,
yeah,
which is when we can discuss this again.
okay.
So, yes, if we weren't doing anything else, it'd be 39,000, assuming we had a signed lease for the whole year. But we kind of know that there's probably going to be rent abatement involved.
Right.
Which is why 32 is okay, but that number's probably actually going to go down a little bit.
I had
So for
39
right-
and 27.
So for right now, we can leave it. So that takes us, I think, to our page 7 and 9.
Yep.
Rental property, 15,026 Washington Street. Those numbers are those numbers. All Fish House,
You could go on electrical for,
y'all put the number.
this
That
is
would-
before the police.
Yeah, that's, we should
Oh, that's
stop calling
that's
it,
15,000.
yeah, we should stop calling it rental property and start
Yeah,
calling
we
it
should call it,
PD.
yeah, we should call this, call it PD building. Yeah, today it was, yeah, I mean, there's typos that Jen is still working on. She busted her you-know-what today quite a bit.
And anything in repair and maintenance on that?
Well, as far as supplies, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, so what do you, 4,000 for electrical? What's electrical run here? What did we put in for here?
It's under the general maintenance building and grounds.
Electrical services, 3,500?
Oh, because split between the tenants.
Jen, if you call Dominion, we can get a real number, or at least a placeholder number from them when it was occupied. They can just click and say, hey,
Well, they have to clickety-click and then add 3 meters together, because isn't that the building that has 3 meters? So-
Yeah, I mean, we could,
Yeah.
call it $300 a month, I mean, call it 4,000 bucks.
Okay.
And it could be more, it could be less.
Yeah.
it's all electric, right, for heating? Or heat pump?
Yes, it's
There's no
there.
gas.
There's no gas.
And then maintenance supplies, we probably should add money there.
500.
No. We're talking about our police department. Let's do a little bit more. Let's do 1,000. Some tells me that are as gentle as the nice staff that we have here.
Especially when they try to use those tiny little toilets.
PD.
Actually, they're not that small, it's just the sinks are small.
And I get yelled at for trying to hire people from Herman? Really?
Oh, if you knew what I said they were going to do with the little sinks, but anyway. Do we need, is $1,000 still good for repairs and maintenance services there?
If your contract estimates are right and based on what the,
Hopefully.
based on what we were told we had to do to fix that building, then yes, that probably should be a good number.
Okay. My job was to bring it to code and make it pretty.
Hawfish House, same thing, 1,000 for repairs and electric maintenance.
I'd like to go back to the police department repairing.
Really? You think they're going to bring more stuff?
No, I'm just saying that it's been unoccupied for a while. It's not in great shape.
Give us a number.
2,500.
For services or supplies?
Services.
Repair and maintenance supplies.
Well, we just put 1,000 there. I was trying to get that number.
So you're talking about
Oh,
service?
service,
Yeah.
yes. It's just, I can just see many
Okay.
things going wrong there.
The unforeseen.
The unforeseen, I can see.
Hawfish House electric is 0, thanks to a new lease addendum. Pest control, we'll fill that number in. We'll fix that number later. Water sewer, that's okay. Property insurance, we got that. Repairs and maintenance supplies, I'd throw in the 500 there, just because we've done it everywhere else. 500 Hawfish. 4,000. Special events, other contractual services. Eh?
It's what we had last year for paying out of, like the police for events. It's our costs for events, but we have the same amount, or a little bit more on the other side.
Well, we should have 500 times however many events more
Yeah, I
on
think
the
it
other
was
side.
10,500.
Give me the other line. Okay.
3190299,
Page 1.
page 1. First bottom.
31902, recovered cost events, 10,005, so yeah, 3,000. I think there's 6 events that they close the streets for, so they gotta pay us $500 per. So that's what that is. Museum, Phil, isn't this fun? So the grand idea was to add money there in the hopes of now telling Brian he has to find someone to run the museum. Hey, Brian,
Someone to run the museum.
there you go.
All right.
I'm cool with keeping that budget the way that it all is, based on that person becoming a part-time employee, and that's the taxes, et cetera. You know, these numbers are kind of a guess. I mean, and we were hoping to kind of expand the program. But unless somebody sees something in that whole museum budget category, I'm okay with leaving them all the way that they are.
Yeah.
Fine,
For the repairs that are going to have to be done when bids start coming back in, because I know that probably won't, I know insurance will reimburse, but do we need a line item to put that under the museum category, or?
Since
Since it's insurance reimbursable, you probably don't.
it's not, it's grant reimbursable. It's
Okay.
Insurance claim. I'd like to hesitate on putting a number in there right now because of the competitive bids.
Okay.
Of it. What do you think?
I concur.
I'll get that read out again.
Okay.
So, capital outlay, machinery and equipment, that can probably be stricken. I mean, we can just leave it as a zero. Planning commission numbers, the only thing that changed there is the third one down, other contractual services, Marchant, we struck that and changed where it was located. Other than that, we kind of dealt with this at the last work session as far as changing the numbers for ARB and planning commission and giving them travel allowance, et cetera. The transfer to Fund 300, couple under non-departmental, is just a accounting entry thing that is necessary. Debt service numbers are what they are.
But it's going to be zero, right?
Debt service?
No, transfer to Fund 300.
For today it is, but depends upon how math works on potential budget carry forward amendments at the end of August. So,
So that's why the line item stays.
Yeah.
But for now, it's zero.
but
To be
in
determined.
August, after the auditors, August or September, after they've audited the 2013 financial statements, they'll tell us how much money we get to carry forward into the budget.
Okay.
And we may have a number before we adopt it that is approximate based on year-to-date expenditures. In the past, we've kind of taken 70% or 75% of what our math shows
Right.
and put it into the budget, and then let the auditors fix it later. Debt service, just as an FYI, that is something that is on my to-do list for starting in July. There's always the possibility of maybe refinancing, restructuring, re-leveraging, et cetera, especially if we get into where we have a $500,000 project for town hall. But it is what it is right now. Those are actual numbers.
Are bond admin fees zero or just not?
I don't know what they are. I don't know how to calculate that.
They're probably on a statement somewhere, but since we don't have anything actual, it's probably just all lumped in with the way that the payments
Yeah,
are being done. It's not
I'm thinking
divvied
so
up.
too. Yeah.
It's probably something that the auditors fix for us.
Yeah.
So it's one of those numbers, and it's a fraction of this or a percentage of that.
Right.
Which takes us to the Washington Street Enhancement Project, which was the number that we were talking about at our continuation. So I'm not really sure how to break this down, and I think Holly said she would have to break it down for us later.
Right.
But the long and the short of it, and Jen and I will figure out where to plug this in so it doesn't make a difference right now for our final number. We're going to have to plug in an expense of $1,663,000, of which we're going to have to bring in whatever category we decide to use, town meals tax revenue, prior year meals tax, whatever we call it, cash on hand, of $1,072,000, which is our town's responsibility.
Right.
And then we'll have the revenue line item for the iced tea safety lube money of $591. So Jen and Brian and I will figure out, along with Holly, how to properly categorize that 1.6 million. At the end of the day, it's a wash. It's what we spend. It's a wash if VDOT replaces our money in a timely fashion, which ain't gonna happen because they still owe us money from October. But for budgeting purposes, it's a wash. The Caboose project is grant money. The construction money there is also shown in the grant revenue side already. So that's where that 42 comes from. Pedestrian improvement, we need an update from Holly, because I don't believe that was going to be slated to happen this year anyway, right?
With the shared use path? The-
Yeah, was that's not construction until they start doing I mean, that's a matter of getting the money and submitting the plan, et cetera. and then putting it out for bid, but that construction's not gonna happen until they've done the widening of the extending of 66.
That would be my thought.
So that's 2015, so I don't think, we can check with Holly,
Check with Holly.
Yeah, we'll strike that.
but we might be able to strike that whole thing out and just keep it on the CIP. We can modify the CIP and change that for the future.
Well, I know we have some engineering that we'll probably do on that.
Yeah, but I mean,
So-
depending on the size, again, checking with Holly, depending on the size, we can just lump that into Holly's current. Non-departmental is another budgeting thing, which roundabout brings us down after all the modifications that we've done. For the sake of argument tonight, we have a surplus budgeted of approximately, call it 135. For argument's sake tonight, until we plug it into a working computer and Excel spreadsheet. And we let the function add it all up. And while we're still triple checking some numbers.
135,000.
I would actually probably just go cautiously, call it 130. So, of that 130, who wants to spend some first? Or do you want to budget it as rainy day fund, carryover fund, cash reserves? There's a bunch of things to consider.
Oh, we got
I mean,
salary.
short of a specific need there, I would prefer having the rainy day fund or something like that.
Well, the mayor has already stated about 27 times this evening salaries, because he feels that giving an annual raise is a must.
Well, I think I'd probably speak probably for the majority of council.
I don't know.
What has been our past history? I mean, I'm new to all
Past
this.
history is certain people with a more fiscally responsible opinion of the matter don't think it's ideal every single time, every single year, and every single Christmas. Given the economics of the time, given the projects that are on the horizon, given the expenses that are unknown, given any number of different things.
Given great work, great job,
And we have the money.
great
Potentially, we have the money.
employees,
have the money.
at
Well,
least
passed.
a cost of living plus merit.
Back to our
Maybe
citizens,
can Kat
and
finish,
give our
please?
staff a raise.
Can Kat finish, please?
Well, Mary Lou was being rude and interrupting Kathy, so, and then we all piled on.
Yeah.
It was all good. She was agreeing with me. So, I was, yeah, it's, economic times are hard, but the work they do is hard. And the work they do is good work, and it should be rewarded. And the end of the year, most people get at least a cost of living, and if we could do a plus merit of, like we did last year, that would be fantastic. And I think we should reward our employees for doing their good work.
Steve had his hand up first.
I'm just curious, what are we talking about dollar-wise? Are we talking about $5,000, $50,000? I mean, that would be helpful to know what sort of
James, you-
You can look at the.
You can just look at the budget and figure out the percentage, it's simple math, minus, no offense, new employees.
Yeah. Wouldn't be. I was like, may I chime in just for a second?
Sure.
My thinking is, if you're going to do anything, certainly for the established employees, but what I was going to say is, I think with as many projects as you've got going on, it wouldn't be harmful for you to kind of earmark and say, yes, we're going to revisit this issue, but keep it as a rainy day fund. The reason I say that is because you've got a lot of projects ongoing. And that's not to say, everything's being said about the staff in my all 4 days that I've been here is true. But the thing is that's not to throw them. I think it's one of those things that you all tend to run in the black. You have a history of running in the black. I think it's something that you can revisit. But just from my standpoint, with a little bit of all the projects you all got going on, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a rainy day fund of some significance, just in case, as a backup. Now, that's not to say we shouldn't address staff issues and make that consideration, but I'm just saying as of trying to make it now rather than earmark it to say that's what you're going to use it for. It might not be a bad idea to say that's what we're going to consider, but just you don't know what the fiscal year is going to bring to you.
Gotcha. Thank you. Rebecca?
I like the idea of merit-based raises, period. I mean, there have been areas and jurisdictions that have had a cost of living freeze forever and a day. I much prefer the concept of merit-based raises and not just cost of living across the board for everybody. That's just me.
Mary Lou or Milt?
Well, we get raises every year anyway, don't we?
Only because it happens right at this time. We earmark it and put it in there.
Even Christmas will be too.
Oh, I would like us to put something aside for that, because I really agree with the Christmas thing. Since Jay brought it up and reminded me. Thank you.
Money aside.
Okay. All right, Kat, I'm sorry, back to you.
If we do take the current, or the initial staff fiscal year 2014 budget for the wages, 5% of it is less than $1,200.
Are you counting the police department and?
How'd you do
The
that?
police department, all the part-time employees,
No, I just did council.
Actually, if you allow me to do your math for you, if you take the salary and wages minus the new town manager's position, you add the police department salary and wages, and you do a 3% of that, you come up with $13,366. Plus add FICA, plus add Medicare, plus add yada, 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 and all tax on that. So
Yeah,
that's
I just
another.
did council.
20,000.
So
did the wrong
it's,
ones. I did
it's approximately
Ooh,
$18,000.
that gave us a raise.
The 20,000 out of the 135 that we, 130.
Well, it wouldn't be 20, I mean, if you have a $13,000 salary adjustment, what do you got, 7.2 of that? So, plus times 1.072, it's $14,300 for a 3%. For a 3% allowance for a merit-based raise system.
And then what did we spend for Christmas bonuses last year?
4,000.
So about 20,000.
You need to add 857 CRS.
Times 1.0857,
That's holding strong enough.
but then you got another 4,000 plus 15%, so 15.5 plus 46. So yeah, it comes out if you add VRS, if you do Christmas bonuses, yada, 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 then you're closer to 19,500 bucks.
Yeah, so 20,000. Of the
So can we
135.
Maybe have a combination of both, where we're putting it as maybe a line item that we know that we earmarked it for it, but yet then have the ability to take from it or whatever. So it's kind of a both of Brian's suggestion.
I would prefer to leave it, if we don't have any other items that pop up, I would prefer that council adopt the budget with raises fixed as they are currently. Carry over whatever the sum comes up to, $136,000. And then council can reevaluate that July or August. And as council has done in the past, when it happens after the audit or after whatever, you know what your real true numbers are, you can retroactive and make it all happen, and it's all a wash. So I would prefer not to throw it in the budget as such. I would prefer to throw it in the budget as a carryover, because we still have some ideas and some issues that we need to verify and finalize, and then let council revisit it. At this point in time, I think that it would behoove us to get the budget fixed and have the carryover, because we currently haven't funded a carryover or surplus, and then revisit the item and have a greater discussion at a further time.
I agree.
So,
I do agree, we do need to go through audit first to make sure our numbers and everything that we do have is correct. And then it will be fought for at that time.
I like your choice of vocabulary.
There you go. Okay, I think
Yeah, I agree.
So that being said, what I would politely ask everyone to do is revisit this thing as it sits right now, see if you, because of the computer technicalities, because of the fact that Jennifer and staff had to recreate this from one thing that was complete to another thing that was, we hope, complete, and because of the fact that certain line items aren't matching up, I strongly urge all of you not to just throw this in your trunks and not look at it until June 3rd. Please take the time. I'm going to ask Brian to look at it. I'm going to have Jen and Sherry look at it. Rebecca's going to look at it. Please take the time to look at it and find glaring mistakes. There probably are some. We need to find them before we publish this. That being said, the next time that I'd like to discuss the budget is June 3rd as part of our normal council meeting. And assuming we can finalize all the rest of these numbers to a pretty succinct time point, that would allow Jen did her math earlier today, and I recall our conversation, that would allow Jen to then advertise the budget for a public hearing on or about June 19th or 20th, which happens to coincide with another date that may be in our future for another issue that may be a public hearing. So I would go ahead and suggest that we can get this done, or have to get this done on June 3rd. So as a directive out of the work session, I'd like to go ahead and have Jen work on getting the draft advertisement with legal to be advertised for a public hearing on June the 20th, which is a Thursday.
I was about to say, it's
So that we
Wednesday.
don't, so that we don't jack up the ARB. I mean, even though I have no problem jacking them up.
You want to know if this is the 27th meeting?
Yeah, so we would have the 20th as the public hearing, and then we can take action 1 week after that. What's the 24th? Why is that highlighted?
It is St. John Baptiste.
Okay, so it's not on
No.
there. So that means we'd have a meeting, we could possibly have a continuation meeting, probably two town public hearings on the 20th. And then we have to adjourn that meeting and then have a new meeting on the 27th. So at this point, I'd say we're meeting the 3rd, 20th, and 27th of June.
The 27th of June.
The 27th is the first eligible date that we can adopt the budget and make any changes based on what we garner from the public hearing.
The 27th. Longstreet Common HOA already has the.
We can
They'll
bump
have
that.
to.
Oh, I know.
Sorry.
I know. I'm just telling you.
Yeah,
what the-
because we need this, we really need to get this done before July 1, so.
Yeah, we can either bump your HOA or we can bump your ARB. Which would you prefer?
I don't care either way.
Okay.
We could also go to the 28th and not do any bumping.
I prefer not doing it Friday.
Most
Yeah.
people here
Friday,
would
no.
prefer not to do a Friday.
Thursday's bad enough.
And not
And
to
we
say
can't
that
go when-
not to say that I'm the only one who has all this information, but I also have plans on that 28th that I can't get out of, so I wouldn't be here for the.
Aren't we doing them,
final.
all of them at 7 PM?
So the 3rd is our normal meeting, the 20th would be 7 o'clock, and the 27th would be 7 o'clock.
So,
Okay.
And then, so the directive here is to advertise both of those dates accordingly, work on the legal that we need. But I wouldn't publish the legal until June 4th, but we know we're right.
Yeah.
and our regular work session before the meeting, is that the 28th?
25th. The 25th would be our normal work session for the July 1st meeting.
She means May.
No, I mean May, into June.
28th.
May 28th is our work session,
Okay.
yes.
3 PM, right?
Yes. And, by then, we may have some more numbers for the budget too.
Right,
so that-
that's what I figured,
So that the 3rd is a little cleaner.
right.
Now,
That's what I was thinking.
June 25th would be our normal June work session.
Yeah, we should keep that. We should
Okay.
stick to the calendar on
All
that,
right.
Oh, my goodness.
in my opinion.
Yeah, it would be for different
No, I
issues,
agree.
so, yeah.
I think that just needs to be something that is relatively set in
Standard.
stone. It's standardized and it doesn't change unless circumstances warrant a necessity.
Okay, I'll go back and watch this tape tomorrow and then double check all my dots. So,
Can I get a second?
So that being said, unless anybody has anything else to talk about here,
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn the
Second.
work session.
Hey, they beat you.
We didn't do
aye?
All in favor?
We can do adjournment for work sessions. All right, thank you.